Greetings and salutations, welcome to a special episode of the Bolton Save. Now this is going to be a bit different. This is basically going to be a catch-up episode for new guys that haven't watched the series so far, and I can understand if you're new to the place and you don't want to watch 80 odd videos to catch up. But it's also going to be fun for those guys that have been here from the start. We're going to go through and look at our league history, looking at some of the transfers and the big stories that have happened over the save so far to really catch you up going into next season. So let's get started, right? So we're going to first look, I think, at the league positions. I think that's a good place to start. So our first season as Bolton was probably our most spectacular. If you start the game with Bolton, you'll notice that there's a transfer embargo because of all the transfer goings on, the takeover that was possibly involved. Bolton were really struggling, massively struggling. So in the first season, we weren't expected to do much. We couldn't sign a single player. I just wanted to basically stay in the Championship because in a lot of other saves that I've done, Bolton start getting relegated quite a lot. I've seen them down in the Vanarama in about 10 years' time. So I know that if all goes wrong, it can backfire horribly. But thankfully, we went on a fantastic run and we finished second in the league. Just 1 point behind Burnley, which was annoying. I never win the Championship. I always just get promoted. But we finished on 85 points. Quite spectacular. Very, very unexpected. Very happy with it. We then went on to this first year in the Premiership. So our first year in the Premiership. So this was the year that we weren't there. Arsenal champions. Well done, Arsenal fans. Finally won it again. So this is our first year in the Premiership, and it was a very successful year. We started off pretty brightly, and I think with about sort of 5-6 games left, we were comfortably in staying in the league. That's all you really hope that first season is, just to stay in the league, be happy with where you are, you know, consolidate, get that TV money coming in, and then you can start pushing on. So we finished 15th, 42 points, minus 15 goal difference. We let in two. Our defence was a bit shaky. As you'd expect, you know, being a newly promoted team. So the season after that, we made progress. We finished a boring mid-table, which I was very happy with. Going into the last few weeks of the season, if we put a massive run together, we could have got European football. We only finished 4 points off 7th spot. But I was still very, very happy with this. It was just nice to see good progression and going on. So, our third season in the Premiership, we scraped into the Europa League spots. Which was just like fantastic. It's just to see perfect progression. First year survive, second year mid-table, third year Europa League. Everything was going as swimming as you could expect. Next season, I was going to say almost won the league. We didn't. We were 25 points off it. It was one of those weird seasons where there was only Chelsea with a good team. Like Chelsea won 25 points clear, and they still lost 5 games that season. Everyone else, all the other big teams like Arsenal, Man United, Man City, Liverpool, Tottenham, just were picking points off each other. It was a ridiculous close season. As you can see, Tottenham really struggled. They sacked their manager, finishing 51 points. They were down in sort of 16th, 17th for a good length of the season and had to sack their manager. So I was like, okay, brilliant. Now, you know, that's a massive gap, 25 points. And I thought, right, okay, but we can push for it. We've got Champions League football. We can push for the league. This season, the next year, we struggled. Like, I really struggled. It was halfway through the season, I honestly had in my head, I was like, okay, if I get sacked, then am I going to carry on the save? Should I go to a different club? Should I start a new save? It was that bad. The first half of the season, we were struggling. We were in relegation territory, and it was fucking awful, to be honest, because at this stage the board expected me to get Europa League, so I was like, okay, this is not going well. But we managed after the January transfer window, we made a couple of good deals, and we managed to sort of put some results together, and amazingly we managed to finish in 7th spot. So this season, the season we've just finished, we've pushed back up to 2nd place, but this is very different to the first season that we finished second, because we're only 3 points behind Chelsea. We had a fantastic season. It went down to the last day of the season. If you haven't watched the last video, even if you're new to the save, watch that, because it was the last couple of episodes have been brilliant. Like, depressing as all shit because we managed to lose, but it turned out, I won't give you the details. Go and watch it if you want to go and check it out. So let's next have a look through our transfer history and talk about some of the players that we've enjoyed over the last few seasons. So obviously first season, transfer embargo, great. So nothing I could do. I just loaned out a bunch of the youngsters and that was it, really. There was, as I said, nothing we could do, but we still managed to get promoted, which is probably one of my greatest achievements in this FM this year. So the second season, we got some money. We got a takeover. It wasn't a rich takeover. It was just sort of sort it out. But we were in the Premiership. We had that TV money. And these are some of the sort of players we bought in. I won't go through every one because there's going to be a lot. But just some of the names that really stick out. The first one was Wellington Silva, who we got on a freebie from Arsenal. He'd been loaned out like 6 times. And I thought he'd be a decent player. And he was for like a season. But just not enough end product to his game after the first season, because we loaned him in and then we signed him. After we signed him, he was dreadful. It's like he didn't care anymore when we signed him. And then we got Sake. I just like his name. Japanese international. Picked him up on a free for a season. He was okay. Sold him for 1.5 million. Next up, we've got Sergio Romero was an interesting one. I think it was a very sort of clever little loan signing. We had to pay a little bit of money for the season, but I needed a solid first choice keeper. So we managed to get Romero on loan from Manchester United, who was really solid and helped us out in that first season in the Premiership. Next we got Jeff Rene Adelaide, who a lot of you will know this guy because I've loaned him so many times and so many games. Like in my Leeds save, I think I loaned him 3 seasons in a row. And he was okay for us. He wasn't quite as spectacular as I'd hoped. But if you look since, look at the amount of money he's going for. So, Dortmund bought him for £14.5 million off Arsenal. They then sold him the very next season to Aston Villa for a slight loss, 11 million. And then bought him back for 12.25 million, and then sold him again to Liverpool for 8.5 million. So every season he's going for sort of 10 million average, which is pretty crazy. Next up was our first sort of punt, because I had that TV money and I wanted to sort of take. We had a decent squad that I thought could survive, so I wanted to sort of sign a good youth prospect and spend a bit of money on a real good youth prospect. And this was the first guy we attempted to do that with. His name's Tyler Roberts. Jeez, he's gone downhill, hasn't he? I've not looked at some of these players since. So, Tyler Roberts. We picked him up for 5.25 million, which was a lot of money. And he never really had the impact we'd hoped. He was obviously a very young player. He was Welsh Young Player of the Year for like 4 years running, which, you know, doesn't say too much, does it really? But just didn't quite work out. Obviously, a lot of these are sub-appearances, so that's why sort of ratings were a little bit lesser, but not enough end product. I didn't really have a position that sort of suited him that well, and eventually we sold him for £3 million, and he's been pretty dreadful since. Steve Sidwell was just a short term. Callum Peterson, fantastic signing as a right back, still a very good player. Picked him up for 1.5, and he was our sort of first team right back for sort of 3 years, then rotation for the next, and then he's been off to Celtic and then Wolves. Papadopoulos was our big centre back signing. I wasn't quite sure about him. He was sort of a big sort of gamble a bit because he's got some interesting attributes. 6.5 million. Played 2 seasons as a sort of rotational option, but then we moved him on for 3.5. He's now playing for fucking Leon. Dreadfully. Look at his ratings, they're absolutely awful. Tom Ince we bought for £3.8 million just to get another British player in the team. A very good, skillful player. Again, never really lit it up. Not enough end product, so we sold him on to Celtic for £2 million. We got a couple of just youngsters here. I think that's the sort of main ones. If we look at the players out, we basically just sold a bunch of sort of backup players, rotational option. Our backup goalkeeper, Max Clayton, went to Derby 400k. So we made a little bit of money, but we spent £30 million to help us keep in that division. So the second team, a player that I wanted for ages in various other saves, was Moussa Dembele, who I picked up from Fulham for £3 million. He had a decent season, if unspectacular, but then after that first season we signed better players, so he moved on to Bournemouth for £6 million. He had one good season and then struggled a little bit since then. let's move through this a bit quicker. The Iron Man. I don't even know what his real name is. We signed the Iron Man. Oh, because his name was Stark, wasn't it? Okay, yeah, that's it. Signed him for 7 million. He was okay, but then we got a £10 million offer. I thought, I could do better with that £10 million, and moved him on. We made a couple of really big, really important long-term signings in this one. So we picked up Rajkovic from Tel Aviv, the goalkeeper, 26 years old, and he was our first choice goalkeeper for like 4 years. And eventually we sold him on to Crystal Palace for £5 million. Excuse me. Another big signing was Christopher Ayer, 6.5 million. You all know about him if you've played any length of time on Football Manager. Absolutely superb, versatile midfield option. He's still at the club. Been with us 5 seasons now. Been solid every single season. Fantastic ratings. Maybe needs to add a few more goals to his game. He plays as a box-to-box, so I'd expect maybe a couple more goals. But that's it. This one's an interesting one. Gerard Lugo, who we signed for £4.7 million from Penarol in Uruguay. Just a really good youngster. Played a single game. We put him on loan to Crewe for a season, and then he came back, had a full season with us, only scored 8 goals, a little bit disappointing. Next season he was a bit rotational option, but then fucking Benfica said, "Would you like £43 million?" And I went, "Yes, please, thank you." And that was the end of Lugo. Like, very good player, but just didn't do it for us. Andre Wisdom, Asensio, another very good player. Picked him up for 7.75 million, played a couple of seasons, and then Real Madrid said, "Would you like 44 million?" So we were like, "Yes, please." We're still trying to, balance the books in the Premiership. We're still trying to make some money. I eventually want to get a new stadium built, so I'm trying to build the bank account a little bit. I've always got that in my mind. Sergi Sampa was a little bit of a failure, really. We did make some profit off him. It was just a rotational option, and we sold him to Colin for £10 million after buying him for 4. Very happy with that. Players out. Wellington Silva, obviously after his floppage, we've sold him for £1 million. John Swift, who I don't even fucking recall, central midfielder that we got on a free. He was let go by Chelsea, sold him for £2 million. So cheeky little pick up there. Papadopoulos went to Lazio for 3.5 in this season. So we spent 58 million. We bought in 20. Not too bad at all. Sort of 30 million seems to be our spending. Now, this was a massive season. Look at the figures here. We sold 78 million pounds worth of players, and obviously a lot of that is the big signing, the big sales. Like Kennedy was the other one I didn't actually show you. So we bought Kennedy for 10.75 million. If I can click on the right button. From Bayern Munich after they spent 23 million pounds, just didn't get games. And he was very decent, but then when Dortmund came in and said 46 million, we're like, yeah, okay. So we're selling like 3 players now for 40 plus million pounds. So that was the big sale in this season. Tom Ince also went for 2 million. Dembele went to Bournemouth for 6 in this one. We used that money to sort of raid Man United. And this is an interesting one because I thought we had a good team. We only needed a couple of players to really bolster the line. One of those was Aaron Cresswell, who spent a season with us. But I managed to get a better player, which I'll show you shortly. But Manolas as well, he's been solid. He's still at the club. He's been with us 4 seasons now. He's been our first choice centre-back. He's getting on a little bit now, but he's just absolutely solid. He's 30 years old, so he's still got another couple of years left in him. We also picked up a Zui from Wolfsburg, who's just been sensational. Last season he was poor, but then we were all poor last season. And £15 million, done very well. He scores goals for fun from that inside forward position. Twanzebe was a centre-back from Manchester United, another British player. Picked him up for £9 million, and he was decent, but we sort of got better options. As we stayed in the Premiership longer, we were able to sign better players, especially once we hit Europe and stuff like that. We just had better options, really, and so we sold him to Bournemouth for 5.2. A rare loss on a player. We don't usually make much loss. So one of the interesting pickups was Callum Gribben. So he's only 23 years old now, and we bought him a few seasons ago. So it was a youngster that I just decided to put a lot of faith into. Man United youngster. He'd been on season-long loan at Brentford and then had a really good season at Aberdeen, playing 32 games So I picked him up for 11.5. It was a bit of a gamble, and he's just been solid player. 6 goals, 12 assists, 6 goals, 10 assists, 6 goals, 8 assists. Really good ratings. Last season wasn't his best. He had a couple of injuries, so he started making a lot more sort of sub appearances, but still a very good player. I've struggled with British homegrown players in this save, so that was really important. Then we loaned in Patrick Roberts, who didn't really do too much for us. Carlos Soler. We bought in Halalovic, who I thought was going to be a massive signing, but he didn't really live up to expectations. And then when Benfica came in with £20 million, I was like, take it. And then a couple of sort of backup goalkeepers. So we spent 55, sold 78. Massive season. This very next season, we'll go through the outs first. We sold 144 and spent 108. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of buying and selling. I'm planning to sort of bring that back a bit now. We've got a sort of settled team. But lots of sort of randomers. Adama Traore, who's our central midfielder, who we fell out with, sold for 21 after buying for 7. So very sort of happy with that. Went for 21. Hyman went for 8.5. Asensio went for 45. Andre Wisdom left us, Callum Peterson, a few fringe players. Ali Sadine, who's one of our youngsters, went for £9 million. We bought him in, picked him up as a sort of 16, 17-year-old. And it was sort of a fringe player, decent prospect, but £9 million I couldn't really turn down. I didn't think he was going to be that good. We'll have a look how actually good he's turned out to be. Yeah, as suspected. Just some slight issues with his physical side of his game. Who else did we get rid of? Nobody. Right, so this was a big season of purchases for us. So this is 2 seasons ago. Jamie Vardy is the first player we picked up. He was absolutely sensational for us in the first season. Absolutely amazing. He was worth the 8.75 just for that season alone. He was amazing, but then sort of dropped off quite quickly. Next up is our new left back. And he's currently our left back. He is an absolute beast of a player. He's 23 years old. His name's Nestor Guerrero. 31 caps for America. Picked him up for £5 million. He's been sensational. This last season was his best season yet with 11 assists. Absolutely spectacular. Because we played with 2 sort of attacking fullbacks. Martin Odegaard. Another one that you'll know from FM, plays for Real Madrid in real life. We picked him up for 7.5 million after he didn't break through at Real Madrid, and he's just been very good. Again, just a brilliant season for us this very last season. Next up, we loaned in a couple of players. Pascal Stenzel was just a defensive midfielder. Frank Diaby, he didn't quite make it. Bernard Mensah was a very good player for a couple of seasons. Another sort of youngster. Seamus Coleman was an interesting one. We picked him up from, I think we got him direct from Everton, yeah. He just started not getting as many games for Everton, and so we picked him up, and he's just done sensationally for us. Getting on a little bit now, 33, 34 years old. Callum Chambers was the interesting one. Now, I originally bought him in as a centre-back option with the idea that he could fill in at right-back, and now he's my first choice right-back. He got 19 assists as a right-back this season. 5-6 of those games are as a centre-back as well. So that is just absolutely spectacular. And it's nice to have a versatile player that I can play as the centre-back. Now, we all know this guy. His name's the Afro. He's also known as the Big Black Salmon. He is a interesting player. Look at the stats, right? Look at the stats. So I bought him as a youngster for 9.75 million after he'd had a couple of decent loan spells. Got a bit of experience for a youngster, so I thought I'd bring him in. First season, I think was it in January? 4 appearances, 2 goals, lovely, all you could ask for. This season, the next season, fucking awful, fucking just awful, right? It became a running joke as to how bad this guy was. A lot of those admittedly were sub-appearances after he wasn't really cutting it or anything like that. But then this season, 32 games, 26 goals, 41 games, 38 goals in all competitions. He just seems to have clicked for him. 1 cap for France, that's why it's called the Afro. And he's just sensational. He is a beast. He's our sort of, I think most of the chat will agree in the comments that he's our sort of favourite player of the save. We also bought in another left back as a sort of backup option to Guerrero, which is Yalçın Pekan, 22-year-old Turkish international. And then finally, not the most recent season, the second most recent season, we calmed the transfers down a little bit. It was getting a bit crazy. So we sold Halalovic for 20 million, Twanzebe for 5, Wellington Nem, who came in for a bit, for 3 million. We signed Matic. This was a mistake, right? So was Nem. Nem was a mistake, but he was free. Matic was the biggest mistake of the save, to be honest. The idea was there, but the trouble was we changed formation quite quickly after I signed him, and I was playing 3 at the back at the time, and I needed a good sort of ball playing centre back, which he can do. But then we changed it, and yeah, so 17 million purchase, sold him for 1 million. That's like, I very rarely lose money on deals, but that is one that I did. But next up, we picked up a couple of young players. A.D. Higginson still at the club, so is Anderson. Just a couple of young British defenders. Biggert, another striker. Andre Green, who's our left winger, sort of left inside forward, who rotates with Azui and Odegaard. 20 games, only 2 goals this season, but a lot of those are sub appearances, so I'm still relatively happy. Who the fuck is this guy? Oh yeah, he's our goal. I was like, who the fuck is that? A goalkeeper we bought in for a season, but palmed him off straight away. And then we needed a striker in January. This is the season where we were really struggling. This is what turned us around. That year that we almost got sacked, almost got relegated, but made a good run at the end. Daniel Asmus, we loaned him in from Barcelona. He's got a ginger Mohican, for fuck's sake. How can you not love him? And he was spectacular for us. This is just from January. 18 games, 18 goals, 9 assists, right? 7 player of the matches, 8.04. He helped us keep our job, basically. So I've always kept an eye on him, but trouble is he's made the breakthrough at Barcelona now, so that's a bit annoying. I was hoping to sort of pick him up full time. And then this season just finished. Brought in a couple more youngsters. We bought Enzo Rocco from Southampton, just a very solid centre-back option for a couple of years. Gillespie was another centre-back option, just another youngster. Casaro was a really good pickup for me, I think. Argentinian, 19-year-old goalkeeper. He's already our first-choice goalkeeper, 6'5". He's a bit of a beast, and he plays really well. Sergi Xavi, I needed a backup or rotational option with the Afro, so we bought in Xavi, and he's been very decent in the games played. He had a horrible injury out for about 4 months last season, but I think him and the Afro are just going to link together really well. We bought Lewis Cook from Man United. I needed an extra homegrown player. I needed a sort of rotational option for central midfield, and he's actually surprised me because he's played really, really well. So very happy with that. Alan Lepper. What? That's not his real name, by the way. Alan Lemmer. I just kept pronouncing it Lepper, so I just changed it. Is our central midfield option. I bought him in because we sold a couple of players after we fell out with the likes of Mensah, and he has just been amazing. He has had a fantastic season. I didn't think he would be a starter, but he proved himself to be more than adequate to start. Joe Gomez. Now, if you've followed this save, you'll know that I've chased this guy for about 4 or 5 years in the game because he wasn't getting games for Liverpool, and I knew he was good. Finally, we managed to pick him up for 4.2 million. Another youngster, Cody Stokes, and Fraser Forster just as a sort of backup keeper to provide some competition. There we go, for Casaro, and also tutor him, because that would be really useful. Fraser Forster's a really good, experienced goalkeeper that I'd really sort of wanted to, see how he did. So, as regards to cups go, absolutely fuck all. We've won no cups whatsoever. We are dreadful in any sort of cup-related competition, it feels. Quarter-final of the Europa League this season, we did nothing other than that. There's no point in sort of going through it and boring you all to tears with our shitness in the cups. I really would like a good cup run and get to Wembley next season. I've promised that I'm going to continue to save until we win the Premiership, right? That's my goal. I don't care even if it's 2 years' time and Football Manager 2018 is out. I'm going to finish this, right? We're going to win the league. Finances-wise, we're up to 69 million. 60 million transfer budget this season. Next episode, if you want to check it out, is going to be sort of a transfer special in that I'm not going to actually just say who I signed, but I'm actually going to show you how I go about finding players, how I search for players, all that stuff. There's no particular mystical magic to what I do. I'm pretty good at it, I would say, but I'm just going to go through lots of people have asked about that in the past, so we thought we'd check it out. The facilities, that we've continually upgraded them as soon as we've got the money to and as soon as the board allow it. I've tried to ask for a stadium expansion, but they won't have it because they say the fan base isn't too big. So just a good cup run or a good Europa League or Champions League run next season will really help us with. We need more fans. We want to build a new stadium and we want to call it the Afro Salmon Stadium. Okay, that is the goal. Right, and if it's not called the Afro Salmon Stadium, I'm stat-apping it and just making it so. Right. Ooh, shots fired. Right. Yeah, so I won't show you the cups because that's just kind of depressing, really. So just a quick look at the sort of formations that we play, and this has been our main formation for a couple of seasons now. This is my sort of favourite formation so far in FM16, and it's working really well, which is 2 attacking wing backs. We've done variations on this, but 2 very attacking wing backs with a sweeper keeper, 2 centre backs. These guys bomb forward, and then the inside forwards then go and support the striker, who is a complete forward, so we almost like a front 3 when we're attacking, with all of them on support, so they're sort of switching about roles and stuff like that. As that's why our wing backs get so many assists, is just that there's 3 in the box a lot of the time. We then have 3 central midfielders. This is the main area that I've played with. Sometimes when we go more attacking, I move into there. A lot of the other times I had him as a defensive midfielder, but it seems to work, whatever reason, better as a sort of defensive midfielder, but in that central midfield position, which is the big signing we're going to have to make this season, I think. And then, like I said, the 2 inside forwards. I think we've got a good enough team that we can play a sort of controlling game. We use the offside trap, but we don't push up too far. We've not got the paciest strikers in the world, so it's a very sort of closey-downy tactic. That's a technical term, by the way, closey-downy. Shorter passing, quicker passing, and playing out of defence, keeping that ball. Look for the overlap. Obviously, our wing-backs are massively important to this formation, so use the overlap really well. Look for the overlap. Lots of crosses in the box, back post headers, all that sort of thing. Work the ball into the box, just because I want to keep the ball and look for good options rather than just sort of hitting too many long-range shots and stuff like that. So very sort of simple formation that's working really well. Had lots of minor adaptations over the season, but this is what we played last season with our good run into second place. This is what we're going to use next season. Is there anything else we should have a look? We could look at records, couldn't we? It's not really that important, is it? Nobody cares. Pause it. Pause it if ready. If you want to look at this stuff, you can pause it. Okay, go. Right, you can have a look at transfers. So 25 million is the most I've played for Xavi. So there we go, guys. Hope you've all caught up, ready to go for the next episode of the Bolton save. It's going to be interesting because I just, it was interesting for me because I haven't looked at some of those players and stuff in a long time. Especially some of the youngsters you sort of sell and go, oh, is he going to become really good and we're going to be really sad? Thankfully, no, they're all pretty shit. So that's good. So stay tuned for next episode where we're going to do some super duper transfers. Bye-bye. Oh, like the video, subscribe. Subscribe, that's good as well, and liking, you know the drill.